Next on PIJN News, Dr. Chaps reports on these important issues.
Will the conservative movement finally unify behind Donald Trump? We interview Matt Schlapp with American Conservative Union, tells us how they can and must. Also, we interview millennials. One is organizing a new think tank, and also a young female movement.
Former Navy chaplain Gordon James Klingenschmidt took a stand to defend religious freedom by daring to pray publicly in Jesus' name. Now he helps you by reporting the news, discerning the spirits, and praying the scriptures. Would you pray with us? Here's Dr. Chaps.
I'm Dr. Chaps, here at the Red State Gathering, where I just grabbed another celebrity, returning guest, Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union. Matt, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you again.
So you came all the way to Colorado. You're based in Washington, D.C. What is American Conservative Union? Remind our viewers.
The American Conservative Union is the nation's original grassroots conservative organization. We were the first one. Now we got hundreds of groups, and the conservative movement is accepted and it's big, and I think it's the most dominant force in politics. But there was a point when Barry Goldwater lost in 1964 where conservatives were feeling like the little guy, pretty unimportant.
Well, I wasn't around then. Maybe you were.
I wasn't either. I have to read about it in the history books.
But ACU puts on this annual conference, CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference. Right. Talk about that.
CPAC is, once again, it's the biggest conservative event of the calendar year. But Red State, I tell you, it's great to be here at Red State. This is a huge event. It looks to be yet another successful Red State gathering. But CPAC is the kind of the original conservative convention. And it takes place outside of Washington, D.C., right by the Ronald Reagan Airport. And, you know, I really think it's a place where the entire conservative movement, even people that don't call themselves conservatives but are attracted to some of our ideas and our philosophy, come together, and we have a big conversation about the future of the country.
And that's going to happen again in February of 2017,
That's right.
Just after the next president is elected. Do you have any predictions?
That CPAC will definitely occur February 22nd through the 25th. I don't really have a prediction on the presidential race. I am one who is voting for Donald Trump wholeheartedly. I view a third Obama term as a threat to the foundational principles of the country. We've watched President Obama really shake loose the Constitution in the way he's just used his presidential pen on issue after issue after issue. You know, he's been overturned by the Supreme Court more than any other president, and by the federal bench more than any other president. So we're really in a constitutional crisis, and we've got to throw a change up. We've got to get on a different course.
Well, you make a good point that Barack Obama has run roughshod over constitutional democracy. He's done many things by executive action without the approval of Congress, and the courts have sided against him more than anybody else. But do you think Hillary Clinton will be, as you say, a third Obama term? Will she do the same thing?
What President Obama, this is very important for people to understand. What President Obama has done is blaze a new path where on every important issue he goes around Congress. The only issue he can't go around them on is spending of our dollars. But on every other policy question, he goes around Congress. It's a new way of being president. Hillary Clinton's going to follow that same path. So we could have big, vigorous majorities in the House and the Senate, but what President Obama has done is showed how a progressive president can simply work around them. It's very frustrating for conservatives in Congress, and Republicans are at each other's throats over the strategy to beat back Obama's unconstitutional actions. Hillary Clinton's going to do the very same thing, and you know why I know it? Because in order to keep her base together, she's got to keep those Bernie Sanders people close. She is going to be just as left-wing as Barack Obama. We have no doubt what kind of president Hillary Clinton would be. Some people have questions about Donald Trump, which are fair. I'm going to take Donald Trump, even with the questions, over Hillary Clinton, where I have no questions. I won't agree with her on one single thing. On foreign policy, I'll root for her, but what I've seen about her, the Obama-Clinton foreign policy, is a disaster. It's frightening. It's scary. It makes us less safe.
Well, she started out funding the Muslim Brotherhood, and you know, everything we saw in Egypt has now been repeated in Syria and Libya, Benghazi. It's her foreign policy has been a nightmare as far as religious freedom for Christians in the Middle East. That they don't have the same rights, and now they're being beheaded by ISIS. And you don't think Hillary Clinton would shift gears and put a stop to that if she's president?
Let me just be really clear. I don't think Hillary Clinton really believes in religious freedom. I think, you see what Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton and people are saying about all types of issues, from Planned Parenthood to the agenda of people that want to change the very definition of marriage and gender and all these other questions. And I just don't think that they have a fundamental respect for those people who want to practice their Christian faith, practice any faith, or practice no faith. That's acceptable in America, and it's right there in our First Amendment. There's a reason why it's in the First Amendment, because it's the most important thing about being an American.
Let's talk about the Supreme Court. If Hillary Clinton is elected president, she's promised, I think, to appoint justices who are going to promote the progressive agenda. Isn't a Supreme Court justice's job to defend the Constitution and not to legislate from the Democrat Party platform?
Yeah, the way it's supposed to work, the way Justice Scalia taught us, and Justice Thomas and these other great justices, is that really their personal beliefs just don't matter. I'll give you an example. Justice Scalia and Justice Thomas are both personally very strongly pro-life, and they'd like to see legislators pass pro-life legislation. But even on the question of when life begins, they don't think that the Constitution says explicitly that the Constitution protects all life in the womb, right? Because it doesn't have those exact words. What they say is the Constitution doesn't speak to it, and it's left to the states to determine what those laws are. That's because they believe in the original intent of the founders. Now, I think if the founders were here today, they would find abortion, this widespread abortion we have in our society, a complete abomination. But they couldn't have anticipated everything that we were going to understand from a medical standpoint. They couldn't have anticipated what was going on the internet. So there's a lot of questions where when the Constitution doesn't specifically tell us what the law needs to do, it's left up to the states to determine these things, or to Congress to pass a law.
So there's a cognitive dissonance in conservative justices that even though they're personally against XYZ, they sometimes vote the opposite when they're making their courtroom decisions because they defend the Constitution, not their personal agenda. How would a liberal justice approach some of those same problems?
I think you have Anthony Kennedy, appointed by Ronald Reagan, who's left-wing on far too many issues. He's unconstitutional on far too many issues, and I think when it comes down to almost every major question, he sides with what the Cathay Society of New York City and Washington, D.C. would want. So that when he picks up all these awards from all these nonprofits along the course of the year, that's the crowd he's playing to. So I think in his heart, Anthony Kennedy felt like it was unfair to not have what they call marriage equality. So he found it in the Constitution. One year he said it wasn't a national issue and it should be left to the states, and so they struck down DOMA. And then in another year they said, wait a minute, what are you doing, states passing your own guidelines on marriage? We're going to strike those down too. So basically, it shows you how when you just follow what the left wing wants you to do, what the editorial page of the New York Times wants you to do, that it leads you to do some crazy thinking. And Anthony Kennedy, I think, has really shown his colors. He cares more about what the New York Times thinks than what the Constitution says.
Or this week, we saw another Supreme Court case where Justices Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ginsburg, they voted in a minority, thank God, they lost. But they said that gender is now redefined as gender identity. So the 1964 Civil Rights Act says you cannot discriminate against women. They held that in their mind to apply to cross-dressing men who pretend to be women. Yeah. Are those the kind of justices we can expect if Hillary Clinton is elected?
Absolutely. I mean, you know exactly what she's going to do. There's no question with Hillary Clinton. She is going to appoint justices in the model of Sotomayor, in the model of Ruth Ginsburg. That's who she's going to pick. And on the questions of gender and transgender and all these sensitive questions, look, I feel sorry for these people that have these problems in their life. I have no judgment towards them. But what you can't do is change all the laws so that all the rest of society is thrown into chaos because there are some people who are dealing with their own problems in their life and their own situation. Right. As a society, we've got to be able to work through these things. Those situations are best left up to local communities, school boards, to set these standards. They can do it. This is America. This isn't that hard to figure this out.
So bottom line, you're supporting Donald Trump.
100% behind Donald Trump. To me, people always say to me, well, you run a conservative organization. Couldn't you only support Donald Trump if he was a conservative? And I say that I think he's running on conservative themes. The border, cutting taxes, reducing the role of Washington in our lives, picking these conservative justices from the list that he's already given us. But the real question in presidential politics is who's more conservative? Because it really comes down to a two-party system. Is Donald Trump more or less conservative than Hillary Clinton? To me, that's a pretty easy answer.
In a two-party system, that's a good argument. What is your website?
Conservative.org. They can find out all the information about CPAC and all the other events that we're gonna have another policy forum up in New Hampshire. We're working all kinds of issues, getting involved in campaigns and the legislative process, and we need your voice to help us be successful.
Fantastic. Our guest has been Matt Schlapp with American Conservative Union. Go to CPAC, visit conservative.org. We'll take a short break, and I'll be right back.
This is PIJN News. Take action today. Dr. Chaps needs you to sign an important online petition.
Today, I want to invite you to sign a critical petition to defend innocent babies and to end abortion in America. On this show, we like to pray and petition God, but we also need you to take action today by petitioning Congress to stop the taxpayer-funded child killing, especially by defunding Planned Parenthood, America's #1 abortion provider. Why are your taxes paying to murder innocent children in the womb? Well, if Congress would simply define personhood as life beginning at conception, we can reverse Roe v. Wade. Please join me today by signing this important petition to Congress. Visit prayinjesusname.org. Again, that's prayinjesusname.org and sign your petition today.
Sign today's petition right now. Again, visit prayinjesusname.org to sign our petition right now.
Do you ever pray and sometimes you feel like your prayers are hitting the ceiling and they don't get to God, or maybe you don't get the result that you hoped for? I'm Dr. Chaps, and I want to make available to you a new resource, a 4-part video Bible teaching series on how to pray effective prayers. Did you know God has given us instructions in the Bible? For example, in 1 Timothy 2, there are 4 different Greek words for 4 different kinds of prayers: supplication, petition, intercession, and thanksgiving. If you don't understand the way God teaches us to pray, then we cannot expect the result for which we hope. I'm asking you to get this important Bible video teaching series on DVD for a suggested donation of only $30. Call us right now at 866-OBEY-GOD. Again, that's 866-OBEY-GOD, or visit our website, prayinjesusname.org, and get this important video resource for your family.
Empowering you, the grassroots activist. Here is Dr. Chaps.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Chaps. We're here at the Red State Gathering, and I've always wanted to know, what is a think tank? I mean, you hear that word out there. It's this institutional foundation or somebody with a lot of money that pays people to think. Well, I now have the founder of a brand new think tank for millennials, for young people. Jimmy Sangenberger, I want to welcome you to the program. Talk about your foundation.
Well, the Millennial Policy Foundation is a nonprofit, nonpartisan think tank that's really oriented towards getting across the message of liberty to the next generation when it comes to solving the issues that face us, like college costs and the skyrocketing costs that we see, student loan debt, and how much of a burden $1.3 trillion in student loan debt is. You've got millennials who are very concerned about climate change, so-called, and you've got concerns about health care and whether or not after graduating they're going to be able to find a job that will provide them with health insurance. So being able to tackle these issues and provide solutions to these problems and to persuade millennials and others and help reframe the debate is really a big goal of the Millennial Policy Foundation.
And those are excellent goals. We're going to talk about policy in just a minute, but I'm still trying to differentiate in my mind, what does a think tank do?
Think tanks develop policy solutions. So let's take college costs, for example. we will be examining what the root causes are of why college is so expensive, where the reforms are needed in order to reduce those costs so that students won't have to be paying as much. What you do is you examine the issue in depth, you conduct research, you develop solutions, and then in our case, we'll be doing policy papers, which are very frequent in think tanks, but we're also going to be putting together videos to meet millennials where they're at with technology today. So Think Tank really develops ideas and provides them out to the general public and to legislators.
And that's different, for example, than a 501c4, which does issue-based campaigns to mobilize voters to get involved. You guys are an idea factory.
Yes, exactly. So we will be putting together a great team, as we're already doing, of millennials and others who are not millennials, a real holistic effort to develop the greatest ideas that we can and to present them to millennials.
So millennials encompass what age group of people?
Those born between 1981 and 1997 or thereabouts is what the age group is for millennials.
So they came of age right around the turn of the millennium.
Yeah, about that.
Well, that's kind of cool. So you're reaching out to young people and you want to get them involved or you want to solve their problems or both?
We want to get them involved to the extent that they are engaged in the political process in terms of sharing ideas on policy positions, changing their viewpoint, hopefully, if they believe in a way that, say, looks more towards government as the solution to the problem as opposed to individual ingenuity and creativity. We also want to make sure that they are involved in the sense of thinking through the issues. I mean, getting the mind rolling at an age when they're thinking about things that aren't necessarily politics and policy. How can they address these issues in their day-to-day lives with so many other obligations?
Well, you come at this from a conservative point of view. Compare that to for example, the Bernie Sanders movement that wanted to give free college tuition to everybody, just tax the rich, and you can pay off everybody's tuition bill. Was that really an economically feasible solution, and how do you compare?
Definitely not an economically feasible solution to just forgive student loans. If we look at the reasons why college education is so expensive, it particularly comes down to the fact that there is a student loan system that is fundamentally broken and encourages colleges to consistently raise costs. By going ahead and just forgiving student loans or providing free college, you're only going to cause the cost to continue to rise, and taxpayers are going to have to foot the bill, simply not going to be able to provide for that. There's just not enough money in the world. You can't grow enough money on the trees to be able to make something like that work. You need to instead look towards the root of the problem and how to solve it that way.
Well, when I think of economic or free market version of something that would provide education to people, it would be putting them into education fields where they're able to earn a living when they graduate. So for example, if I studied, underwater basket weaving at a liberal arts college, I may not expect to get a job right away when I graduate. Is there a free market solution that is market driven?
Create a business that makes underwater weaving financially prudent.
Sell your baskets.
Exactly. Go do basket weaving and make money doing that underwater. Make a trade, skill. In seriousness, though, I agree with you. We do need to have more of an emphasis on practical education, on being educated on things that will actually really pan out in your day-to-day life. So promoting trade schools, for example, there is an accreditation system in this country where trade schools are not treated the same way in terms of loans and so forth as you see from traditional higher education institutions like a four-year college. If we equalized that playing field and made it so that the accreditation system was the same across the board, you would be able to see more young people going into these trades to get skills that will be practical when they leave college, and it will promote more competition in the system as well, where colleges and universities will have to say, well, these are the particular degrees that you will be fruitful at when you graduate. These ones, not necessarily as much. They'd have to be more transparent in what they provide to their students.
And is there also a free market banking mechanism that can finance a student's education? I know Bernie Sanders wanted to just erase and forgive everybody's student loan debt, but somebody's on the hook and somebody would have to pay for that. You had an idea to get rid of the FAFSA form or to get the centralized government out of the management of this day-to-day operation.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, the more that we've seen the federal government give loans and grants, particularly subsidized loans, meaning that the receiver of the grant, rather the loan, does not have to pay interest on that. That's a subsidized loan.
And the taxpayer's on the hook.
Yes. And so you've got more subsidized loans and grants being put out there, and as that has happened, the cost of college has consistently risen. It simply is not practical to be looking at any sort of forgiveness or involving the government more. Instead, we need to re-privatize the loan system once again so that it is in the hands of the private sector as opposed to the federal government, which consistently messes up the system.
Because if I'm a liberal college administrator and I say, boy, those taxpayers, they have a lot of deep pockets and they're willing to pay and forgive all the debt and just unlimited blank check, I'm going to raise my tuition rates, and suddenly the student is caught in the middle.
Exactly. I mean, the reality is that we should be auditing these college institutions. I mean, we should be having college students say, where is my money going? Are you paying the lawnmower 5 times what the lawnmower is worth? I mean, you really need to look closely at how these colleges are spending the money and whether or not they should be allocating it the way that they are, or if it's just being wasteful. If it's wasteful, we need to call them out on it.
Well, that is transparency in government and getting away from a centralized bureaucracy into more of a free market approach where it's economically feasible for people to earn their way and maybe even pay off their own tuition as long as it's for something that is going to earn them a living afterwards.
You hit the nail on the head. Economic opportunity is really the crux of what we need to be looking at. How can we make it so that when a student graduates from college, university, or trade school, that they have a job that they're able to go out to, that they are able to earn an income, raise a family, buy a home? It really is what it comes down to. It is whether or not you're able to get a decent job out of college.
And honestly, a lot of young people, they don't want free government handouts. They want to be able to earn their way and get a job right out of college, and they're being frustrated by a lot of liberal policies.
I agree.
Mention your website one more time.
The Millennial Policy Foundation website is millennialpolicyfoundation.org. We are just about to launch on Monday a crowdfunding campaign to provide resources to make this happen, which is to develop a think tank, and we'd love for your viewers to get involved on the ground floor to help us make this into something that will make a real difference in communities across the country.
There he is, Jimmy Sengenberger with millennialpolicyfoundation.org. I'm Dr. Chaps, and we'll be right back.
Dr. Chaps will be right back with more PIJN news.
Take action today. Dr. Chaps needs you to sign an important online petition.
Today, I want to invite you to sign a critical petition to defend innocent babies and to end abortion in America. On this show, we like to pray and petition God. But we also need you to take action today by petitioning Congress to stop the taxpayer-funded child killing, especially by defunding Planned Parenthood, America's #1 abortion provider. Why are your taxes paying to murder innocent children in the womb? Well, if Congress would simply define personhood as life beginning at conception, we can reverse Roe v. Wade. Please join me today by signing this important petition to Congress. Visit prayinjesusname.org. Again, that's prayinjesusname.org, and sign your petition today.
Sign today's petition right now. Again, visit prayinjesusname.org to sign our petition right now. Stay tuned for the end of our show to learn how to partner with this ministry. Here's Dr. Chaps.
Welcome back. I'm Dr. Chaps. We're here at the Red State Gathering, and I have just found 2 beautiful young ladies with future female leaders Let me introduce to you my new friends, Reagan and Elise. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
So, what is Future Female Leaders?
We are a social movement for young conservative women. We use social media to outreach to young women who might not be inclined to join the political scene. So we have a Twitter page and we tweet fun articles that relate to conservatism and activism. We have a store that sells these skirts that we're wearing and cute shirts that girls can get online.
Well, besides skirts and tweets, I mean, there's got to be some political movement. Why do you do this?
We do this because a lot of girls feel like they might not have a voice or they might not know the outlet to reach out to get involved in politics.
For me personally, Future Female Leaders has really empowered me to find my voice and allow me to not be afraid to really speak my mind in politics.
So it's never polite to ask a woman her age, but are you guys geared toward a certain age, or how do you recruit young leaders?
We're geared towards young conservative women, so like high school, college age students that are on social media that need a place to express their feelings and get involved with young women that think like they do. But we need support from all ages. So young men, young women, old women. Everyone knows a conservative woman or a young woman in their life that might need an outlet to get involved. So that's why we're here at Red State. We're just getting our name out there and looking to build support.
Now, I think of myself as a conservative, but I'm an old white man. So what do young people think it means to be a conservative?
Unfortunately, I think there's this misconception that conservatives are all old white men, and we're proving them wrong. You don't have to be an old white man to be a conservative.
I think the best part about our movement is that we're conservatives of all different political, we don't all think the same. We're all different. So a lot of the girls from the organization, we think different, we have different views on certain things, but the great thing that unites us all together is that we do believe in the conservative movement and that we can show people that conservatives don't necessarily fit in a box.
We all believe in the same core principles.
Yes.
What are some of those principles that you want to fight for?
Limited government, personal freedom, responsibility, for sure.
Free markets, for sure. Capitalism, we love capitalism. So we're just getting it out there to the younger people that social issues aren't all that matter, that fiscal issues and economic issues matter too, and they're just as important as social issues, if not more important.
Well, there you go. So where does it go from here? Are you encouraging young people to take classes, to join a movement? What kind of programs can people sign up for if they go? And what is your website?
FutureFemaleLeaders.com. And we're inspiring young people to sort of speak their mind and not be afraid to get involved in politics.
So we encourage students to join organizations on their college campuses. We also we're starting to do outreach to chapters like College Republican chapters, Turning Point USA chapters, so we can kind of get our face out on college campuses, but we're encouraging young women to do activism on their campus.
And I imagine, although your title is Future Female Leaders, you also want to mobilize young men.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely. I think the entire conservative movement needs younger faces, and so we're all about mobilizing young people to just get out there and be activists.
That's wonderful. Mention your website one more time.
FutureFemaleLeader.com.
And anything else you want to say?
Thank you for having us on.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Chaps.
Chaplain Klingenschmitt is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy who earned his Ph.D. in theology from Regent University. As a former Navy chaplain, by taking a public stand for freedom of speech and religious expression, and by sacrificing his own 16-year career and $1 million pension, he was vindicated by the U.S. Congress, who changed the law and restored freedom for military chaplains to pray in Jesus' name. Dr. Chaps not only defended the Constitution, but his petitions have helped change the law in 10 states, restoring freedom to pray in Jesus' name. Dr. Chaps needs your financial support to stay on the air. Would you please send your best donation today? Please visit PrayInJesusName.org to donate online. Or you can mail a check to Pray in Jesus Name Ministries, Post Office Box 77077, Colorado Springs, Colorado 80970. You can also call us toll-free right now at 866-OBEY-GOD. That's 866-OBEYGOD. Please sign up for our free emails at PrayInJesusName.org. Again, that's PrayInJesusName.org.